I kind of want to jump into my general thoughts about this movie. This is a really solid Netflix movie, and if you're really into the war genre, I think you're going to appreciate it. I've never seen a film that really explores the German soldier side of World War I, and I found that aspect really fascinating. And although the main meat of this movie is around Paul and his captivating story as a really young soldier being sent to World War I and how awful all of it is, it does a really good job of balancing out with the history to tell you kind of what's going on and what Germany was facing at the end of World War I and why they might have been hesitant to a ceasefire or agreeing to an armistice. That additional context, I think, was really pivotal for the movie and really added an extra layer that the movie benefited from. Could you have told the story about this movie without it? Absolutely. Do I think it was necessary and added a bit of more context, a bit of more clarity to this film? Absolutely. And at first, I was really thrown off by the fact that I didn't know that this was a German-made film, and it took me a second to adjust to the English audio dubbing over the German dialogue. But like I said, it didn't really detract from my experience at all, and I was still able to enjoy the movie in full effect. So if you guys are hesitant about watching this movie for that reason, don't be, because it's still very digestible. And I've got to say, the lead in this movie, Paul, who's played by Felix Kammerer, he does a really great job of pretty much taking on that lead role of this film, because he is in just about every single second of it. The peril, the darkness, the grief, the dread that he feels about his day-to-day and going to war for 2+ years from when he's 17 to when he's however old he is by the end of the movie. The movie really showcases that well, and Felix Kammerer really brings out that peril really, really well. And I think that's the most dark and grueling part of this movie, is the fact that it's told through the eyes of a group of 17-year-olds who are going off to war. They're going into this thinking that, oh, we're manly men, we're gonna prove our pride for our country, we're gonna go in, this is gonna be great. And they find out very quickly that war is an awful thing. And I think that's really clever by the movie to really captivate your attention early, because it's got this juxtaposition of innocence of boys who very quickly turn into very terrified men. The things that you see Paul and his friends go through are very unpleasant, very in your face, and the movie just doesn't shy away from any darkness, which I think is necessary for what the movie was going for anyway. And I will say, I did end up checking the time at one point throughout this movie. At about the 1 hour 45 minute mark, I was like, okay, how much longer does this movie have? So like I said earlier, that 2 hour 30 minute runtime does start to get felt a little bit. You feel like the movie's just about to reach its logical conclusion, but then it just kind of keeps going. And I think if the movie would just cut down the runtime, maybe cut out some character relationships, it could have benefited from that. One other side note I want to touch upon, Daniel Bruhl is in this movie, which I thought was a really interesting additive to it. He plays one of the characters who is negotiating the armistice with I can't recall the other side of the World War I group, but he's negotiating the armistice on behalf of Germany in this movie. And I thought he brought a real sense of authenticity that this movie needed, and it was really, really felt from my experience. So friends, on the whole, I'm definitely going to recommend that you watch this movie, especially if you're into the war genre. You won't be disappointed. This movie's pretty captivating.